Okay, Pasta YouTube, it's me again, back with a new series again. With this time I'm playing another classic PlayStation 1 game, with it being MediEvil. And let's not waste any more time, get right into it. So, this game, and there's another classic of mine. Forgot I haven't touched it yet, so I need to do all this. Touchpad works as a select and start screen. Now, I chose this game instead of me playing GTA 3 for like the third time I'm saying it, because I was inspired by another YouTube channel by the name of Vicarious Nick Gaming. He played this game for the first few levels until the first boss. However, while he played it more casually, I intend to play it more in depth, going over all the levels, all the bosses, all the secrets that I can find, and generally going more in depth with all the weapons and everything that's available in the game. This section here is a bit of history for the game itself in terms of the backstory.
There lived in the kingdom of Gallowmere a sorcerer named Zarok. This arrogant, pitiless man hated his fellow citizens for their simple and peaceful ways. So he raised an army of demons and set out to take the realm for his own. The king's champion, Sir Daniel Fortescue, led the militia into battle against this unholy horde. Songs are still sung of how he spearheaded the charge deep into the accursed multitude, how demons fell before him like wheat before the scythe, and how at last, though mortally wounded, he destroyed the sorcerer utterly. Fortescue went down in history that day as the hero of Gallowmere, and a time of peace began, which was to last for 100 years. And then the sorcerer returned.
Sorry if the audio for that section was a little bit low. I'm trying not to make sure that that my mic is too loud while the game is too quiet. I'm trying to find that balance of audio. It's been a bit weird for me to actually get down perfectly, but if it is a bit low on the game side, please let me know so I can fix that. Thankfully, this part doesn't have any audio, it's just a cutscene. Speaking of the cutscenes, they're done in FMV, which was pretty impressive for the time. Doesn't really look great nowadays, but when this came out in, I believe, 1995, it was pretty impressive. And even now, it really fits with the game's gothic art style. All this time, I still can't even talk properly. And having played a fair number of PS1 games, even if it's not the best FMVs, they could do a lot worse. Trust me, I've seen worse. Shadow Madness. That's one game that really bungled the FMV scenes. And that was the game's intro cutscene. Gives a really good general introduction to the game's story, or for the most part at least. We haven't met our hero yet, but this is it. One of the PlayStation 1's, I wouldn't say hidden gems, it's fairly well known. A bit underrated if I would say, but considered one of the system's best gothic, yeah, if I can talk, best gothic horror games, MediEvil. And we'll get right into it with a brand new game. And this is our hero and protagonist, Sir Daniel Fortescue. With our tutorial level being Dan's Crypt. No enemies in here, spoilers, but not really.
It has risen again. Sir Daniel Fortescue, see? The hero of Gallowmere who fell at the first charge. The fog of war and the shrouds of time conspire to turn the arrow fodder into the saviour of the day. But we knows better. Let it alone. Fate has given it a second chance. A chance to forget the ignoble truth. A chance to defeat Zarok and live up to the legend. We hopes it does well.
And we begin gameplay. So immediately we have two weapons available to us. The small sword here, which you can use for a quick move with with X or cross, and a charge move with square. You're going to be seeing me use the charge move a lot, not for this weapon, but in general. There's also these runes here that work as keys to unlock new doors, circles to jump, and triangle is normally for block, but we do not have a shield yet, but we can get one right here. There are bookcases strewn about the map, both here and in pretty much every level. These serve to work as some backstory for the game. You can use these to learn about characters, settings, etc. Just press X to go when you're standing next to one. When you're ready to leave the crypt, you'll find an exit at the end of the hall. To unlock the gates, you must find a rune and place it in the ornate hand set next to the doorway. It's just general common sense for stuff like that. And as this book here implies, you can use this level to get used to the game's controls, weapons, well, two weapons here. There's a ton of items you can collect, and so on. Pretty standard stuff, especially for the time. This right here is the second weapon, throwing daggers. I typically don't really use these, but I do want to show off at least every weapon one time. I'm going to stick to the small sword for now, but I'll use the daggers the next level. Over here we have life bottles. These serve to act as a secondary health bar. You're going to be needing them for sure throughout the game. If Dan loses all 300 HP, the life bottles immediately revive him, whether it be by falling off a ledge or just dealing with tough enemies. Here is the door to the exit, obviously, and in every level these little green dots here serve to show that it's the exit to the level itself rather than going to a new location. Again, pretty standard stuff to get used to. And that's it for Dan's Crypt. There's no way you can fail the mission. There's no obstacles there, and so on. And that same cannot be said for the first level, the Graveyard. I'm going to save my game here just to be safe, because you never know. The Graveyard is pretty standard for a first level. I believe if you had the PS1 demo disc, if you're lucky enough to have that, the graveyard acts as the only level in the game, I believe. Someone can probably correct me on that. And we even get a little intro picture for the level itself. I'm using the analog sticks to move, and if you just gently push it forward, then we'll walk, which is actually a lot more useful than it lets on. We don't need it right now because we have tons of open space, but we'll need it for sure. Step forward a little bit, and we have our first enemy, a zombie. And I can't believe I just got hit by him. The zombies only do 10 HP of damage, so you have plenty of time to get away or fight back if you manage to get hit, so it's not really that much of a big deal. When you kill enemies, you can see little red swirls come out of them, and those swirls act towards the chalice, which you just saw in the top right corner. Filling that up towards 100% is necessary to get all the items and weapons in the game, but if you're not used to the game and you don't know where everything is, don't feel bad if you end up missing one or have to come back later to really fill it up. Over here, these sprawling fountains, which I'll read to you the book here. These fountains of rejuvenation will heal down all the way up to full. At least full for now. They only heal, I believe, up to 900 HP. So if you end up having more than that, they'll not fill you up completely. The little green wisp by the zombie now, when I'm using the daggers here, shows that you're aiming at them. Of course, these throwing daggers are not really all that strong, so I tend not to use them, but if you really need to keep away from enemies, if you're low on HP or something, don't be afraid to use them. As I said, I don't typically use these things, so yeah. The reason why I don't use them is because pretty soon we're going to be getting a better weapon. The throwing daggers are considered the worst range weapon in the game, not because they're especially bad, it's just because you get a lot of better stuff immediately afterwards. Here we have another place to put the rune. And that's pretty much it for the basics of the game, honestly. Most of the stuff that comes later on, in terms of puzzles and the area design, they're just really cool in general. Here you can find the chalice I was mentioning before. Of course, we're not at 100% yet, so we cannot collect it. However, I do really recommend taking time to explore all the levels and search for them, because you really will not regret it. As for filling up 100%, it's not difficult in the slightest, no matter the level. It's really just a matter of exploring, and it's really only a major factor in 1 or 2 levels. As you can see there, we found another life bottle, so effectively now we have a set HP of 900. So, as I mentioned before with the chalices, not the chalices, the fountains, now we can fill us up completely. Of course, we're not just there yet to get the chalice, so we'll get there soon. For this door right here, don't worry about it for now, because the living world lies beyond these skull gates. The master of the Hilltop Mausoleum, the stained glass demon, has possession of the key. So we have to fight the stained glass demon first before doing anything with that door. And even then, you're gonna see why it's not too much of a hindrance that we can't do that right away. Ah, I fell. But that's essentially it. This game really is a classic. Despite it being classified as a horror game, especially since it's taking place in a graveyard right now with an undead protagonist, there's a lot more comedy in this game than it lets on, especially because it is a British game, I believe, so it has a lot of dry British humor, I believe. Although it has been a bit of a while since I played the game fully, especially the PS1 version, it's still a classic. It still controls fairly well. I was considering playing the remake, but I can't just not play the classic one. to 96% here, so this next enemy here will be enough to get the chalice. And the game will let you know with that message that it can be collected now. Speaking of which, let's go get it. Feels weird not being able to press triangle for something we'll get later on, but it's only about 3 levels away, so no big deal. Now that we got the chalice, you see that message, the Hall of Heroes awaits. Every time you collect the chalice, when you leave a world, you'll be transported to a place called the Hall of Heroes. That is where you'll be able to get more weapons and items, but you'll see when we get there. Over here is a darker gargoyle, after some zombies here. When their eyes are glowing, you can press X to interact with them, and you can use them to buy supplies, which I'll be doing right now. These guys will be very useful to you if you use the ranged weapons. I pretty much just blew all my money on the daggers, even though I don't use them, mostly because I kind of have OCD with stuff like that, and I just can't deal without having full ammo, even if I'm not going to use it. But yeah, I haven't used my shield much either, but if you tend to use it more, don't worry about them, because you can find more shields in chests like these. And there we go, new copper shield. Be very careful with this water here, because you can fall off the edge, even though it's like flooding the bridge already. But here we go, the exit is right over here. You can also talk with this gargoyle right here for some extra exposition.
Tread softly. Zarok awaits beyond these gates. The master meets with the demon from the mausoleum, hatching plots of purest evil. Forgotten nobodies would be wise to make themselves scarce.
Now, he did not rightly say it, but the gargoyles in the early game tend to throw shade at Dan for being a coward and dying really, really early in the war. But here we are in the Hall of Heroes. After playing this game right after Resurrection, which is a PSP remake, I really prefer this version. Resurrection's not bad, it's just
Welcome
weird.
to the Hall of Heroes, where the bravest warriors from history spend eternity, feasting, singing, and arm wrestling. If they think you're worthy enough, you may be able to persuade them to give you a new weapon.
And by new weapon, we have one immediately right over here.
Captain Fortescue, it's me, Canny Tim. Does the battle go well? How I wish I could fight at your side again, sir. But hold, you could take my crossbow. It's got rapid fire and you can ricochet the darts off walls to shoot around corners. I used it at the Battle of Gallowmere. After you were slain, I shot Zarok's champion, Lord Kardok, a clean kill through the eye at some 1,000 yards.
And we will gladly accept the weapon.
Not that there's anything clever about shooting someone in the eye, sir. Oh, goodbye, sir.
And as soon as we have the throwing daggers, we have the crossbow, which is immediately a lot better. Just as Canny Tim said, there's rapid fire and it ricochets off the walls, which the daggers cannot do. So one chalice and we already have a weapon that outclasses another one. But that's all we can do in the Hall of Heroes for now. I could show you why. Canny Tim is the only character we can interact with for now, since no other person will be willing to talk with us, and we only had one chalice to begin with. The stairs to the upstairs are ghostly and ethereal, and we can't walk through them just yet. So yeah, that really is all we can do for now in this area. And that's essentially the core of MediEvil. Go through the levels, kill enemies, laugh at the story sometimes, get stronger, and face off against Zarok. I make it sound pretty boring by saying that, but it's really, really not. This game can get a bit difficult sometimes, but it's truly a classic. And even though I tend to have my videos a bit longer, around a half hour, I'm gonna call it an episode for here, just so I can try to space everything out without everything being too heavy on one video. I want to spread this game out a little bit. I've played this game a lot as a kid, and even today I tend to pick it up sometimes. So even though I could be a bit rusty, I I'm I would say I'm fairly good at the game, and I don't want to just run right through it. So thank you all for watching. That's the end of the video for now, and in the next video we'll be heading off to the Cemetery Hill, and I will see you guys then.